Alright, so I recently had this online exchange on the Better Business Bureau website where I filed a complaint against the Birmingham Radiological Group. And they had 3 doctors, they were radiologists, and they were involved at examining medical imagery, that is X-ray, CT scans, and MRIs that I had done as a patient. And this took place in 2018 and 2019 at Ascension St. Vincent's East Hospital, Birmingham, Alabama, and American Health Imaging. Radiologists, doctors Julian Patrick Druhan and Donald Shane Kelly, they looked at the images for St. Vincent's East. This was done over a series of emergency department visits. And Angus Baird examined the images for American Health Imaging. All 3 are members of this Birmingham Radiological Group. So I received this reply from Shannon Sykes, the compliance officer, name calling and mudslinging tactics in this rebuttal from Birmingham Radiological Group, who makes around $5, $10, $15, $20 million revenue annually. So I'm the patient. I discovered misdiagnosis, brought this to their attention, and I was basically the target of a character assassination. So there's a number of suspicious actions that were involved in my case, and there's quite a few. This involves radiologist Julian Patrick Druhan, who, as I mentioned, looked at my 2018 X-ray and computed tomography head and cervical neck scans done on 4/22/19, Ascension St. Vincent's East Hospital, Birmingham, Alabama. The injury that I was carrying and went to the hospital emergency department to have addressed and diagnosed properly and possibly treated, this was ignored in these scans. The injury, serious head trauma, it shows up in the images. But when I went to the emergency room, I was given these scans, sitting in a waiting room. Doctor came in, told me I was good to go. I could go home. I just strained my neck, and I was sitting there, and I knew that I had a very serious injury, possibly life-threatening. So later on, I went and got my own records, and I found this injury that I was told was not present in my upper neck, the basilar area of my skull. I had broken a pebble-sized piece of bone off the bottom of my skull. I had CSF fluid leak out of my skull. Went to these hospitals and doctors, did not receive proper treatment or diagnosis. And this injury, it festered and putrefied, and it complicated over time. So after about a year walking around with this injury that had not been treated properly, I had other issues, massive infection, chronic infection, and some kind of infestation of some kind of parasite issue. I took parasite drugs, and they were effective at addressing some of this pain. So I think that this was a correct assumption on my part. And this involved my visit with Christ Health Center. I went to 2 of their locations in Birmingham, Alabama. One's down Chalkville off of Old Springville Road. The other one's in Woodlawn, Birmingham, Alabama. This is a community health clinic. I was referred to Christ Health Center by Ascension St. Vincent's East Hospital after this emergency room visit in 2018. I had a lot of problems in this Christ Health Center also, because I didn't know exactly what was going on in this place, but I'll tell you my thoughts here. There's two main things going on at Christ Health Center. Patients which don't have proper insurance or a source of income, a job, and are able to pay at the emergency department visits at the St. Vincent's Hospital, they are directed to Christ Health Center, and they're treated as indigents, okay? And I fell into this category also. And so, yeah, my experience is when I got to Christ Health Center, they basically did nothing for me to treat me. And they put me on these financial assistance avenues. And I wound up at Cooper Green Hospital in Birmingham, and I did not qualify for treatment in any of these various financial assistance offerings. Yeah, they sent me to UAB for financial assistance and also told me to apply with St. Vincent's Access to Care program, which I did not qualify. So the second main issue with Christ Health Center, they're bringing in the fresh talent. These are doctors, nurses, and various medical staff, and they are trained in the Christ Health Center. If you look at the relationships involved, a number of these doctors and nurses, they later move to St. Vincent's Ascension hospitals. And I'll put up the record here of Nurse Anna Musgraves, NP, and she was a good note taker. I would speak aloud and tell my symptoms and what was going on with me, and she typed in many of the things that I told her. So please read this and you'll see what my situation was like at this time. I had a chronic infection from this misdiagnosed injury, and I almost died from this situation like a few months later. Alright, so following this visit, I tried to get an MRI referral or an MRI outright. The Christ Health Center had a real hard time getting this more detailed look at this injury. And yeah, I believe somebody didn't want me to get this information. I'll offer some proof here in this video for everybody to see. And these are records that Christ Health Center staff requested from St. Vincent's Ascension. And these records differ from the records that I later obtained separately from St. Vincent's East Ascension Hospital. So yeah, I had the 2 CT scans done, 4/22/19, looked at by Dr. Julian Patrick Druhan. And you can see his name here in these records that Christ Health Center obtained. If you look at the second page of each one of these scans, they give the radiologist report, which basically says I had no injury here, which was not true. And then on the second page of each one of these CT analysis, you'll see this here, and it says, this document has an image, CT head or brain without contrast. It also appears on the second page of the CT spine cervical without contrast. This document has an image. Alright, so I got the radiologist reports in this record pool, but these images that are mentioned, I did not receive a copy of these images. Alright, and I can only assume that these images, they may have shown the same images that I obtained later from Ascension St. Vincent's Hospital from these scans. And in these images, this is contradictory to what you read here in these reports. My skull was broken, and this was a very serious head trauma based injury. So I'll put this out here. I requested all my records from Christ Health Center, by the way. And they should have included these very important images. And why did they not include these attached images with these reports of my skull and cervical neck scan. And this is a very important question. So yeah, I'll show here this is the CD disc I got from St. Vincent's East later. And yeah, these images that you see on the screen, these are images of my head from these same scans I'm talking about. And yeah, my visit with Christ Health Center, this was fraught with troubles. Signed off on by Beverly Vonderpool, MD, Terry Daniel Smith, MD, and also saw Anna Musgraves, MP, Christ Health Center, Birmingham. And you can see a lot about the problems I had having my injury treated, acknowledged, and diagnosed. And it's on my YouTube channel. I got over 10 hours. My Medical Nightmare. And thanks for watching.